Hello, everybody. Jonathan Poley here with West Coast Weather. Today is January 10th. We're going to talk about the system that's bringing some mixed precipitation and rain showers to parts of western Washington and Oregon. This is laying in the cooler air and eventually Arctic front as we go through tomorrow. Then our eyes go towards this next system that's going to bring a low pressure system into the Oregon or Washington coastline. And this has potential to bring some localized winter storm conditions to parts of the lowlands as well. Just how north this storm goes, the farther north this system goes, the more snow Seattle and Portland may get. And there's also potential for an ice storm as well. But the European model brings it really far south, even towards northern California, and brings a rainstorm and snowstorm to parts of the mountains of California as well. But the GFS, again, has it farther north and more snow for parts of Washington and Oregon. So it's a very tough forecast, and a lot is going to change over the next coming days, but we'll try to break that down in this video. And we're not going to take a very much of a look at the extended forecast right now, as the models are not agreeing very well in the short term. So they're likely not agreeing very well in the long term as well. So without further ado, let's get right into the forecast. Now we're looking at general ridge and trough positions on the European model. Here's British Columbia, Washington, Oregon, California. Greens and blues are troughs and low pressure, where general storminess is expected. Yellows and oranges are where the ridges of high pressure are, where generally more fairer weather is expected in those areas. And you can see that our storm system that bring the windstorm and parts of the snowstorm and blizzard conditions into the mountains is moving off east in the south. This is going to bring some cooler conditions to parts of the southwest United States as well. Maybe even some snow down to parts of the lowlands in Utah and Arizona, but mainly just chillier weather as well. Maybe some clouds as well. But then you can see our big Arctic polar lobe that starts spinning in over parts of eastern British Columbia, parts of Alberta, northern Idaho, northwestern Montana, northeastern Washington. This is not really taking a favorable track for a big snow event for parts of western Washington, southwest BC, and western Oregon, but it's going to allow some very cold Arctic air into much of the region as we go through the coming days. And Seattle may not get above freezing for a few days straight, which is not very common, especially during a strong El Nino year. But you can see that this polar lobe starts quickly moving east. Some models a few days ago were having this thing digging over the water and producing more moisture, more snow, and colder air getting down as well, but that's not looking as likely right now. But then you can see our next system, it kind of comes in off the Pacific Ocean. And on the European model, it brings it all the way down the northern California and southern Oregon. I'm going to show you here in a second that other models are not agreeing with this as well. And you can see a potential ridge building as we go through early next week, still keeping some pretty chilly weather over the region. Now, looking at the GFS, pretty good agreement in the short term. You can see that maybe the polar lobe is a little farther east and maybe a little weaker than the European model, but it's not really going to change our weather that much. But you can see our the system on late Friday into Saturday and lasting in the parts of early Sunday goes up towards the Washington and Oregon border. This would bring some snowfall to parts of Seattle and mainly south of Everett and Washington, but it will also bring some potential ice and snow to parts of Portland as well. So some very kind of big changes in the models for just being about 3 days out, and these changes are going to really change the what is actually going to happen for these major metropolitan areas. Now looking at, I don't know why the GFS just showed up again, but looking at the European model 6-hour snowfall 10-to-1 ratio in inches, you can see that maybe some mixed showers and maybe some snow showers are possible today. Really not expecting much with that, but it's going to be a lot cooler, and there's going to be maybe some snowflakes flying, especially in the foothills of the Olympics and the Cascades and coastal ranges. But watch as we go through tomorrow. You can see this Arctic front start moving down the late morning, the early afternoon over parts of western Washington. This is going to generate some snow showers over parts of western Washington and eventually parts of southwest Washington and maybe northern Oregon as well. Not really expecting too much with this, as this Arctic front doesn't have that much moisture to work with, but maybe a quick dusting of snow is possible for some areas, and maybe up to an inch of snow if a convergence zone or something sets up over the parts of the Puget Sound. But then you can see as we go through this next system on Saturday, you can see it brings some snow to parts of the Willamette Valley down here, but it brings almost nothing to Portland and Seattle, which is kind of brutal for some snow lovers. But you can see that it starts bringing snow to parts of the Sierra Nevadas and actually some pretty heavy snow amounts down there. But now looking at the GFS, this is composite reflectivity plus what the precipitation type is. Blue is snow, green is rain, and then you got pinks are freezing rain / ice pellets. You can see some mixed showers as we go through later today before dying off later tonight. But you can see tomorrow morning some snow showers expected with that Arctic front as it makes it the way down the Puget Sound. There's going to be some surprise snowfall potential with that. And there's also going to be some straight effect snow along the Strait of Georgia, which may bring some heightened snow totals to parts of the Nanaimo area over there. But you can see that these showers are really not lasting very long over the area and kind of get out of the area. But look at as the system moves in the parts of Washington and Oregon, you can see that it brings this ice storm to parts of Portland and then brings a potential for a snowstorm in Seattle. The GFS has been kind of backing off on this position, and it's kind of trended a little closer to what the European model says, but it's still a drastic difference to the European model because the European didn't have almost any snow for Seattle or Portland, and not even ice really, but the GFS is like the complete opposite. So there is potential for a surprise snow / ice event for Portland and Seattle going late in the Friday and the most of Saturday, but I'm really betting closer to what the European model says. I think it's going to be kind of a mix, and the low is going to move in the parts of northern / central the Oregon coast. This is going to bring a potential for a little bit of ice and some snow to Portland, and maybe a little bit of snow to places Seattle and southward. Places north of Seattle and up in the southwest BC is almost looking like a 0% chance of snow with that system, unfortunately, if you do want snow in those areas. But thankfully, we're only in January and we still have over half the winter to look for potential snowstorms and stuff like that. But this run is kind of being a dud for a lot of snow lovers. Now looking at the mean sea level pressure on the GEM model, this is the Canadian model actually, and watch what it does with the low pressure system. You can see the deep Arctic high bringing that cold air and Arctic front into western Washington, plowing through the region. But then you can see the low pressure system. This is kind of in between the GFS and the European model. The European model brings it all the way down here. GFS is kind of up here towards maybe the Washington / Oregon border right there. The Canadian's kind of in the middle. This is kind of more of a setup that I would expect. This would bring potential snow to Portland and maybe parts of southwest Washington as well. So you can see that the models are disagreeing quite a bit, but Seattle is kind of looking like it's on that line of it's probably not going to get much snow or any snow at all, but could get snow. It's kind of a hard forecast to really show. But as we go through the next couple of days, there's going to be some pretty good precipitation in the mountains. And this system, according to the European model, is going to bring quite the rainstorm in the parts of California as well. Maybe 3 to 5 inches of precipitation for parts of the northwest California coastline, especially the coastal mountain ranges down there. Maybe even an inch or 2 for the northern Bay Area as well, and parts of Sacramento. So definitely a pretty decent storm looking likely for parts of northern California. If we go over to the GFS right now and check out that precipitation, you can see that it brings the precipitation a lot more north and brings some pretty heavy precipitation totals to parts of the southern Washington Cascades, much of the Oregon coastline and the Oregon Cascades as well, and also brings that the northwest California, but kind of leaves the Bay Area and Sacramento areas a lot drier. So quite a bit of difference for only 3 to 4 days out at max. Now looking at total snow at Kuchera ratio on the European model, you can see maybe a light dusting as we go through the next couple of days for parts of western Washington. Not really expecting like a major snowstorm or anything. But as we go through this weekend storm as well, you can see it brings no major snow to Seattle or Portland whatsoever. Maybe some snow to the parts of the Willamette Valley, just dependent on where that low exactly goes. And I'm going to do another forecast likely on Friday as well to try to nail down where the system is going to go. We can look at high resolution models as well and where those models are showing where they're going to go. But the potential for some really heavy snowfall for parts of the Oregon Cascades in the Sierra Nevadas is definitely looking likely with a couple feet of snow in some of those mountains. So be very careful if you're going over the passes the next couple days. And more snow is also going to be expected over the coming days for the Washington Cascades as well as the showers continue. Now taking a closer look at the Pacific Northwest, here's Washington, Oregon, here's southern British Columbia up here, here's Vancouver, BC over here, here's Northern California down here. This is looking at daily 2-meter max temperatures for the day. Here's Thursday. You can see still above freezing for much of the area, but then watch this as we go on the Friday. The Arctic front comes through. High is not even getting into the 30s likely for much of Western Washington, maybe Bellingham and parts of Vancouver, BC, not getting into even the 20-degree range, and this is also in Fahrenheit as well, so this is going to be well into the negatives on the Celsius scale as well. And you can see the Arctic front kind of tries to make it down towards Portland, but doesn't really make it too much. They also have that the gap winds that may kick up as we go through the coming days, and that will bring some cold air out of the Columbia Gorge into the Portland metro, which may cause a potential ice event with that system on Saturday. But you can see it does eventually make it down to Portland later on Saturday as some of that cold air spills out. But you can see max temperatures not getting above freezing until maybe Sunday for Seattle as well. And there's potential for colder air with this as well as we go through Monday and Tuesday. This is the national blended model, so it kind of gives like average. So sometimes the temperatures are likely to be even colder than what this model says. Now looking at 2-meter low temperatures for the next couple of days. Thursday, lows getting into the 30s likely. This is this should be showing the low temperatures as we go through later on Thursday night, and those should be getting well below freezing for much of the area and probably getting into the teens for Bellingham. Now looking at Friday low temperatures, low temperature of 22 in Seattle, 15 degrees on Whidbey Island, 7 degrees in Bellingham, Vancouver in the almost the single digits as well, getting a little warmer as you get closer to the warm waters. Now looking on Saturday, low temperature of 14 degrees in Seattle. That's very cold for around here, and you can see 12 degrees for Whidbey Island as well. 7 degrees for Bellingham. There's potential for even some negatives up in Whatcom County. That's not super likely, but there is potential for that, which is kind of crazy. Negative 12 degrees Fahrenheit for Spokane, so some very dangerous cold temperatures. Actually, almost all of Washington is going to have dangerously cold temperatures, so please just help keep people and pets inside, at least not for don't keep them outside for a very long period of time. You can see potential for 3 days in the teens for Seattle. I don't know if Monday will have teens in Seattle as well, but there is potential the cold air lasts longer. We can see the national blend of models doesn't get Seattle above freezing for lows until Thursday of next week. Some very cold air at least is coming in. Now looking at the HRRR convective this is composite reflectivity precipitation types. So blues are snow, pinks are mixed precipitation, and the green and yellows are just regular rain. You can see as we go through today, the showers move south and east and kind of die off over Oregon as we go through tonight. But you can see that these showers start popping up. It's over parts of Western Washington as the Arctic front moves through. There's going to be likely snow showers with this. The HRRR a lot of times underdoes the precipitation with these Arctic fronts because what I'll show you in a bit is the NAM actually shows plenty of snow showers moving through around this time frame. The HRRR almost has nothing except southwestern Washington, maybe parts of the Portland area. But you can see the showers moving in. Then you can see the weekend system trying to move in on the HRRR as well as we go through later on Friday into parts of Saturday as well. But you can see it's also a bit farther north than the European model, and this would start bringing potential snow to the parts of the Portland area, maybe approaching parts of Western Washington as well. So there's quite the model battle going on right now. Now looking at 10-meter wind gusts on the HRRR, let me go back so we can go out farther out. Now, as we go through later on Thursday, you can see the winds picking up as that Arctic front moves through. You can see some west winds coming down the straight one. If you could bring some kind of chilly weather to parts of Whidbey Island and maybe parts of parts of Skagit County and parts of Snohomish County as well. You can see the powerful Fraser River Valley winds kicking up with gusts over 40 miles per hour for parts of Bellingham, Lyndon, parts of Abbotsford up in the BC side. You can see this is going to bring some really chilly wind chills as we go through, and some dangerous wind chills actually, which I'll show you here in a second. You can see also some pretty gusty winds continuing in the mountains for some pretty nasty winter storm conditions up there. But looking at the NAM, this is the composite reflectivity, and let me update this real quick so that we have the best information. You can see it's showing some potential for some snow convergence bands and showers as we go through later tomorrow and for Thursday. This kind of glides down the Puget Sound, maybe brings some light dusting to the part of Western Washington. And those who are lucky in these bands like sit on top of them for could get up to an inch of snow. Not looking likely on that front, pun intended. And then you can see Portland also showing potential snow, but you can see the NAM is also farther south, agreeing almost with the closer with the European model, with the snow potentially going even south of the Portland area. But parts of the Willamette Valley could win out with the system. Now looking at the NAM 3 km 10 meter wind gusts, we can see the winds picking up with the front, with maybe some gusts actually approaching 40 miles per hour from the west on parts of Whidbey Island as we go through tomorrow. I don't know if they'll get that high, but there is potential. But then you can see the Fraser River Valley outflow winds as that cold, dense air flows out of the mountain valley of the Fraser River. You can see some gusts over 50 miles per hour possible for Bellingham, especially on this mall and parts of the San Juan Islands as well. There's going to be some gale warnings probably up and maybe a wind advisory as well. So some isolated power outages and very cold wind chills are going to be possible with this. And if we play this out, these winds kind of just continue all the way through Friday before kind of waning, but then increasing as we go through Saturday. So this cold air is just going to be continuously pumped into the region as we go through Saturday. And then you can see the winds with that system offshore possibly on Saturday. Now looking at the apparent temperature, or what the wind chill is going to be, this is what temperatures are going to feel like on the NAM model. You can see it's pretty chilly today, but watch as the Arctic front comes through later today. Later tomorrow and that early on Friday, look at these wind chills getting into the negative double digits for Whatcom County, single digits for Whidbey Island, getting into the teens for Seattle, and actually approaching the single digits on the NAM for Seattle as well. You can see negative 20-degree wind chills possible on the NAM model for Bellingham. This is dangerously cold, so please just be careful out there and do not spend too much time, especially wear extra layers of clothing, because there's actually some frostbite potential if you were to be stuck out in this type of temperatures. And you can see that even Spokane getting negative 20 to negative 30 wind chills, which is very cold. Not as uncommon out there as they usually get a couple of these very cold events out east, but still dangerously cold for people that are not experienced with that type of temperatures. Now looking at dew points on the NAM 3 cam, this is the dew point is kind of a way we measure moisture in the atmosphere, and we can really see the Arctic front come through with the dew points, and you see that dry, dense air move into parts of Western Washington as we go through tomorrow, with dew points getting into the teens and single digits for much of the Puget Sound, even some negatives showing up for parts of Whidbey Island, Skagit County, Whatcom County. So definitely get that lip balm and chapstick out and some of that hand lotion out, as people's hands and lips are probably gonna be cracking with how cold this air, with how dry and cold this area is. You can see some negative double-digit dew points showing up for parts of Mount Vernon as well, even getting the teens and single digits for parts of the northern Willamette Valley, including the Portland Metro, getting to the negative double digits potentially for parts of the Spokane area as well. So very dry air. Now taking a quick look at the Southern California area, here's Los Angeles right here. So there's going to be some potential for some strong winds as the system that brought the blizzard conditions of the Pacific Northwest moves through. You can see that there's going to be some potential for some damaging winds with gusts maybe over 70 miles per hour for parts of the ridge lines and parts of Santa Barbara and Ventura and Los Angeles counties. Some gusts over 40 miles per hour potentially on the coastline, so just be aware if you're down there. Now looking at the 3-day snowfall chances from the National Registers of Seattle, you can see that this shows the average and the range. So you can see Port Angeles 1 inch to 9 inches, but the likely is 3 inches. For Seattle Metro, look at this range, 0.3 inches to 11 inches, and they have the most likely outcome, which is around 80% of the time is only around 1 inch. So you can see that there's a wide variability in the models and what they're showing. You see Bellingham 0 inches to 2 inches with an average of 0.5 inches. Friday Harbor average of 0, but a range up to 3 inches potentially. Now looking at the weather impact outlook from the National Weather Service at Spokane, Washington. This is for the inland Pacific Northwest. Wednesday, moderate. Thursday and Thursday night, moderate, and then major weather impacts on Friday and Saturday as dangerously cold wind chills and continued periods of snow likely, and cold, fluffy snow, increased north wind in areas of blowing snow on Thursday and Thursday night as well, and some areas of snow on Wednesday. Now, looking at the snow forecast from the National Weather Service of Spokane, Washington, you can see that maybe adjusting to a couple of inches for much of eastern Washington, especially parts of the Blue Mountains and out towards Idaho and this out east towards the Spokane area. You can see areas of blowing snow possible Thursday night into Friday as some of the strong north to northeast winds start coming out of these mountain gaps as that cold, dense Arctic air moves through. Now, looking at winter driving, before you go, make sure to check your road conditions by calling 511 or visit your state's DOT webpage. Also, pack an emergency kit with phones, blankets, foods, flashlights, first aid kits, high-calorie, non-perishable foods, stuff like that. And please just ready your vehicle by checking the batteries, the wipers, the coolant, and other systems affected by the cold. And also just make sure to get the weather forecast before setting out, which you're doing right now if you're watching this video. And dangerous beach conditions also possible for parts of the Oregon and California coastlines as we go through later today and tomorrow as that low pressure kind of continues over the area. Large breaking waves 22 to 28 feet, dangerous beach conditions. Just please stay off jetties and don't keep your back to the ocean. Now looking at heavy snow timing, forecast impacts, you can see heavy snow continuing today for parts of the Sierra Nevadas and California, ending later this evening. But then there's going to be potential for some more heavy snow as we go through later on Friday, Saturday, and in the Sunday. Just please be careful if you're having to travel through some of these mountain passes near Redding and out east. Now looking at strong winds, rain, and mountain snow for Wednesday through Thursday. For Southwest California, strong/damaging winds in the mountains, some possible gusty winds on the coastlines and valleys as well. Mountain snow maybe a couple inches above 3,000 feet for some of those coastal mountains in Ventura, in Santa Barbara, and Los Angeles counties down there, so just be careful if out there. Now looking at the European ensemble members for Bellingham International Airport, here's looking at the mean and the control run have single digits likely for Bellingham for at least a couple nights, with temperatures below freezing potentially through Monday without getting above freezing during that entire time. And you can see that dive as the Arctic front comes through, and then the general warming as some of these Pacific systems in the region kind of starts entering the area potentially. But you can see there's also some colder solutions out in the future, but we're not going to look at that right now. Whidbey Island Naval Air Station alt field is up near Oak Harbor on Whidbey Island. You can see that the mean and the control run are below 20 degrees, so in the teens for multiple nights, and doesn't get above freezing until Monday. So definitely some very cold weather coming through. Whidbey Island, looking at the snow potential on all 50 ensemble members, you can see generally only maybe a half inch to an inch if we were lucky. To get actual accumulating amounts like that, you would really need a snow band to set up, and that's just we can't really forecast that. It's kind of just we have to wait and see if it actually does happen or not, but there is some potential with that, but no more than a dusting is really expected. And looking at the Seattle International Airport for 2-meter temperatures, you can see getting into the teens for potentially 1 to 3 nights actually, and not getting above freezing until later on Monday. For Seattle, snow chances also on the European Mall. Really, all the ensembles are agreeing that snowstorm happens for more of Oregon instead of Seattle, but there's still a very, very slight potential for that snow as we go through this weekend. I'll talk about that again on Friday, but you can see maybe approaching a half an inch of snow if you are lucky down there. Probably only a dusting or less expected. Portland International Airport, potential for cold temperatures as well, into the teens for a couple nights before getting above freezing later on Monday. Portland, definitely a better snow chance on the European ensemble members, with the mean approaching 4 inches. I don't know if you guys will get that because the European Mall is showing potential for all the snow to go farther south as well, but there is potential for some decent snow amounts for Portland, so just be careful out there. Sacramento International Airport, total precipitation in inches. You can see the potential for some rainy systems as we go through this weekend and into later next week. Ukiah Regional Airport, you can see that there's also going to be some wetter conditions out towards the northwest California coastlines and some of those coastal mountain ranges. You can see the means up towards 3 inches, so definitely some pretty hefty rain amounts looking likely for parts of Northwest California. San Francisco International Airport, kind of a mixed bag. There's some ensemble members that have under an inch, most have over an inch at least, but definitely at least maybe 1 inch to 1.5 inches for parts of the Bay Area, especially the north side. Now look at the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook for valid for January 16th through the 20th. This is kind of after our main cold event, but still showing below average temperatures for parts of the Pacific Northwest, above average temperatures for California. Precipitation, 6 to 10 day outlook for the same time frame, maybe potentially above average precipitation as some systems may go through this time frame. 8 to 14 day temperature outlook, above average for much of the West Coast being shown. There's still a lot to look at in this range, and this can and will change. 8 to 14 day precipitation outlook, leaning towards above average as well. So there's potential for a continued active weather as we go through the middle of January for us to look at. Well, that's it for this video. I hope everybody found this informative and enjoyable. Just please hit the like button, subscribe buttons down below this video, and also hit that notification bell if you don't miss out on any new videos I make. Thank you for everyone that watches, and we also just recently reached over 500 subscribers, so thank you very much for that. You guys are what makes these videos possible, and just getting the video out to more people just helps me to grow this channel. Just that's what liking and subscribing does, so thank you all for that. But we got this next system moving through over the weekend as this Arctic front moves down. Just how north this system goes is still in question, and I'll also take a closer look at this on Friday, hopefully. But there is potential for some snow for Portland and Seattle, and at least some snow flurries is likely as that Arctic front moves through. But just how much snow with that weekend system is still the question, as the European mall has almost nothing for almost most of the area other than the mountains. GFS brings potential ice storm and snowstorm as well, so some pretty crazy mall disagreement at this time frame. So take care, God bless, and I'll talk to everybody in the next video.